been a handful of movies looking at Me Too lately, including the new film After the Hunt. This one is set on a university campus and also weaves in themes of cancel culture. But even though it's being called a Me Too movie, its director Luca Guadagnino says that's not what this is about. I'm Amil Niazi sitting in for Elamin Abdelmahmoud. This is Commotion. I have got Hoai-Tran Bui, Jackson Weaver, and Reanna Cruz here to talk about After the Hunt and a bunch of other movies in theaters this week. Hi, everyone.
Hello.
Hey.
So, After the Hunt stars Julia Roberts, Andrew Garfield, and Ayo Edebiri. And to help set it up a little bit, here is some of the trailer.
I need to speak with you, okay? Hank walked me home. He asked for a nightcap, which, it's fine. Hank, everybody loves Hank.
What are you saying happened?
He crossed the line.
But what actually happened?
So briefly, Hoai-Tran, what more do we need to know about the plot of After the Hunt?
So After the Hunt is about Julia Roberts, Professor Alma Imhoff, who has cultivated a close-knit group of adoring students and colleagues who basically worship her. But after one of her students, Maggie, played by Ayo Edebiri, comes to her about being assaulted by Andrew Garfield's Professor Hank, it throws Alma's, carefully curated life for a loop and ends up sort of unveiling this hypocritical facade that she's built her life around.
You saw this movie when it premiered at the Venice Film Festival. What did you think about the film?
I had really high hopes for this film because I'm a big fan of Luca Guadagnino. Call Me By Your Name is one of my favorite movies ever. But this was one of the biggest disappointments for me out of Venice. I think it's just a mess. It wants to have its cake and eat it too. It couches its dialogue in this hyper-intellectual academic speak that shields the fact that the characters are not really saying anything at all. And they're just kind of repeating these shallow talking points that were recycled from the height of the Me Too era. And I think Nora Garrett's script is kind of to blame here. It tries really hard to cloak this entire affair and case in ambiguity that it ends up not coming to any kind of conclusion at all. Just like everyone is so gray and exists in these shades of gray that you're like, well, who are these people? I have no idea. They're archetypes.
That's interesting. Reanna, as I mentioned, Guadagnino says he doesn't see this as a Me Too movie. And Ayo Edebiri feels the same way. When she was asked about it, she said, quote, "I think it's like saying The Godfather is a movie about an Italian wedding. There's so much richness happening in the lives of these characters, genuinely, and that boggles my mind." What do you make of the way she's speaking about the movie there? Is this a Me Too movie?
I think I'm inclined to disagree with her. I think this movie is fundamentally shallow.
Okay.
And I don't know. I think it is a Me Too movie, and I think any attempt to obfuscate that perhaps is an effort to bring more people into the theater, because I think this was a hard film to market. I know I saw it based on the cast and because I like the director. And I think beyond that, I don't think general pop is like going to the movies to watch a Me Too movie in 2025.
Yeah.
And I think that's an attempt to, I think, perhaps persuade the population to run to the theater for After the Hunt. But I don't know if it's working.
Yeah, it's interesting. I watched the trailer many, many times since the film was announced, and I never could get from the trailer what this movie was about. So it's interesting that you say perhaps that's sort of on purpose.
Yeah.
Jackson, Me Too movies have become a little bit of a mini genre on their own. I'm thinking of Tar, starring Cate Blanchett, and Sarah Polley's Women Talking. Where do you think After the Hunt fits in this kind of milieu?
I mean, I agree with literally everything that has been said so far about this. It's kind of a mess. It's kind of shallow. It's kind of about nothing. And it's definitely, oh my gosh, to an egregious degree, trying to have its cake and eat it too. I unfortunately kind of dug aspects of this movie, but I think I had the exact different experience of Hoai-Tran. I watched this last night after hearing everything terrible about it. So I was expecting this to be the worst train crash I've ever seen in my life. And I was able to pick out some things that I did enjoy about it. And that's, despite all this egregious failure that we also see around it. And I do think that this is definitely a Me Too movie. You cannot, regardless of what Luca Guadagnino meant when he was making this, you can't put aspects that clearly parallel the Me Too movement and then say this isn't a quote unquote Me Too movie. Like, regardless of what your intentions were, like the ticking of the clock, you can't have that in there and not know that people are going to make the associations with like Time's Up, etc. You can't have a person in a position of power be accused of sexual assault against a student in their care and not have it be a quote unquote Me Too movie. I think what they're saying is that this isn't an activist movie. This isn't a movie that explicitly is trying to make a point about what that kind of culture, that power dynamic really means. And for that reason, like, I don't necessarily think it's exactly like Sorry Baby, the movie that came out earlier this year, which kind of told the exact same story, but from the perspective of the student. And I would say, as an aside, After the Hunt's most egregious error is how underwritten every single character under 25 is in this. But I mean, it's a little bit more similar to something like The Hunt, which is the Mads Mikkelsen movie about a teacher who is accused of a lewd act with a woman in his community, or like Doubt, the movie with Philip Seymour Hoffman and Meryl Streep and Amy Adams, based on the play, which is about a priest who's accused of assaulting a student in his care. And the whole movie, like the last line in this movie, is the character saying, "I have such doubt. I don't know if what I'm supposed to do is right here." Because I don't necessarily think this movie is about the Me Too movie and assault in and of itself. It's more about how self-interested we are under the veils of purity politics or morality plays. And I think it is very shallow, and it doesn't take a necessarily strong stance in like showing both sides of that debate, of showing, you know, how everyone's kind of out for their own, both the older characters and the younger. But I do think that this is more similar to something like Eddington than it is to Sorry Baby or to Tar or to The Hunt, etc. And that this is looking at really the politics at play in community and pop culture at large, and kind of reducing how small-minded and selfish really everyone is, which I do appreciate. I do love the cinematography. The sound design is really cool. A lot of the acting in this is really, really good. But I will also couch many of my compliments in the fact that I thought this was going to be the worst movie I've ever seen in my life. And there were some aspects I liked.
So you had low expectations, and it was
So
a little
low.
bit better
Oh
than
my
you thought it
gosh.
was going to be.
Yeah.
Hoai-Tran, Jackson mentioned the performances, and that is something that is getting praise. There's a lot of talk about Julia Roberts potentially getting an Oscar nomination here. What did you think about her performance in the movie?
I think she's the best part of the movie. She is really phenomenal, and it's so refreshing to see her be really directed by a filmmaker who loves actors as much as Guadagnino and really pushes them beyond the limits of their typecast. I think it's the first time she's really been in a non-heroic role, and she obviously really relishes playing such a meaty, complex character. And it benefits from the fact that her character is the one that's the best and most fleshed out and well written. And she is playing this really icy and guarded character that is kind of simmering with emotions underneath. And it comes to a head in a really like disastrous way, and she plays that so well. And I think that she would deserve any Oscar recognition she gets out of this.
Okay, good. I like to leave it on a positive note, too, talking about at least there's something good about the movie.
There's something.
We have to leave it there because we have lots to talk about. After the Hunt is in theaters now. I'm Amil Niazi, sitting in for Elamin Abdelmahmoud. Hoai-Tran Bui, Reanna, Cruz, and Jackson Weaver are here. And now for another movie with big name stars.
What kind of movie is it?
A musical, of course. And if I have to explain the of course, I might as well just end it all right now.
I hate musicals.
And I pity you.
I'm sorry to break the news, but nobody sings in real life.
Well, maybe they should. Now shut up and listen. There go the lights. The curtain opens. It's in glorious Technicolor.
Wait, you throw us right in. We know nothing about the story or the characters.
Don't you like to dream? At least a little?
When you feel you've gone to hell in a handbasket.
That's from Kiss of the Spider-Woman, starring Jennifer Lopez and Diego Luna. It's based on the stage musical, which was adapted from a book. Reanna, you went into this movie not really knowing what to expect, but now that you've seen it, how would you describe the story?
I would describe it as there are two men in an Argentinian prison cell in the height of fascism, mid-'80s in Argentina. And in this prison cell, one is a gay man trying to recount the plot of his favorite movie to his cellmate who is disinterested but later interested. And then there's this movie within a movie element as he's explaining, featuring the imitable Jennifer Lopez as Ingrid Luna. And the whole movie functions as this like movie within a movie. There's dream sequences. There's a large sense of whimsy to the affair, despite the central narrative being so dark and quite frankly sad.
Jackson, you've been on Commotion, talking about your love of musicals. What did you think of Kiss of the Spider Woman?
Yeah, I'm in my bag today. I mean, I was kind of shaking my fist at that line that we just chose where the character Valentin is like, oh, well, people don't sing in real life. Well, like newsflash, Lord of the Rings is a good movie, and also orcs don't exist in real life. We're not going necessarily to see explicit realism here. I will say, though, that my love of musicals isn't necessarily as grounded in the golden age of Hollywood, Broadway melody, etc., that this movie very much is. It's based obviously on a movie from the 80s, and that was based on a musical. I mean, yeah, stage production that was based on a novel. So this has kind of roots in the past more than I do. And a lot of the Kiss of the Spider Woman is celebrating this larger than life, like gypsy-esque aspect of acting and celebration of that staging, etc. I do think that elements of this are a little bit too heightened and a little bit too up in the artifice of how you would perform a stage musical, and that like it's larger than life. The acting of some of these characters, however moving it is like they're playing to like the back of the house instead of the subtleties that like a filmic role would demand. And I do like the separation of the barbarity of the prison system that they're in with the beautiful aspect of like the brightly lit show tune scored musical they're kind of watching at the same time. But other movies or movie musicals or just musicals in generals that have that kind of split, that artifice, that kind of like here's a suspension of disbelief that will make it make sense why everyone's singing, also seed a more direct reason into doing that. I mean, you can look at The Drowsy Chaperone, which is a musical about a guy who loves musicals, who's describing musicals to you, the audience. And then in the songs, he'll say something like, oh, well, like musicals have beautiful melodies, but sometimes the lyrics are ridiculous. So he has a song called Bride's Lament, bracket, monkey on a pedestal, and the whole song is like ridiculous narrative, and you kind of have that believability into it. Chicago works so well because its musical numbers are meant to underscore how the glitz and glamour that we associate with true crime in that era was just as seedy as Hollywood is. And then you have something like The Greatest Showman, which like is about a showman, etc. This one, it just kind of feels like a gimmick that doesn't necessarily land unless you adore this specific type of musical. And on top of that, it just has this kind of like heightened stage-esque acting that I don't necessarily love. But these are mostly like personal preferences. I'm not the guy that's super into those types of musicals. I like more like, Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? Or Anastasia, etc. So it's not necessarily my bag, but that's because I have a dislike of overt sentimentality and frankness that some people are obsessed with. So your mileage may vary.
Okay. Reanna, even though this is set in Argentina in the past, it does feel incredibly relevant to what's going on today. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I mean, I really loved the movie when I watched it. I think the movie is about two things, right? It's about I love I love watching movies and queerness in the face of fascism. And I think combining both of those things together is really powerful, frankly. And I think like watching the film, it's very queer, it's very transgender, honestly. Like I felt very I was impacted watching it, as like a gay and trans Latino. Like watching that, I was like, wow, like this is powerful. And I think the movie stands for this larger message that it's trying to put out there, which is like there are escapes. You will be able to be happy, and no matter what your environment is, if you find small little moments of joy in there. And I think it really means a lot to have a movie like this in 2025 and have such a big ticket star like J-Lo in it. Like, I think J-Lo could have said no to this role and this movie. But she didn't. And I think it's really compelling to have big ticket stars sign on to a movie like this year.
Yeah, let's talk about J-Lo in this movie, Hoai-Tran, because she is just radiant. Like from the moment you see her on screen, it's captivating. What did you think about her in this film?
I think she's dazzling. I think she's perfectly cast as the golden age Hollywood diva going through a Technicolor adventure. She feels like she stepped out of that time and place, every curl in place. Although I say there wasn't, much to her character because she's technically playing a figment of Molina's imagination, but she's brilliant at playing that figment and making her feel, bigger and more spectacular than like anything you might have imagined yourself. So I think she's great in that, and whatever Oscar buzz she might be earning with this movie, she would also deserve. And I do remember because I saw this movie out of the Sundance Film Festival very early this year, and I loved it out of there. And she came out on stage during its premiere, and I could tell that she was definitely like, this is the start of her wanting to make that sort of start of that campaign.
Right. Okay. I love that. I mean, when J-Lo puts her mind to something, she makes it happen. That truly, I believe that. Reanna, even though J-Lo is this like incredible, huge star, one of the real standouts in this film was Tona Tu, who plays Molina. Can you talk a bit about that performance and kind of what that role is and why it's so important?
Absolutely. There's a range of emotion that he puts into his performance every single second he's on screen. I agree that it can skew a little bit melodramatic at times, but I think that's intentional. It's a gay Latino character, and I see my friends and the people that I surround myself with in his performance. And granted, it's the role that William Hurt played in the 1985 movie and won an Oscar for, right? I think there's an air of prestige that comes with the role. And as soon as he opened his mouth, right, the first time I heard him sing, my jaw dropped. I had no idea. And also went to my college.
Very cool. So we're rooting for Tona Tu. I mean, I could see an Oscar in his future too, because I did really feel so moved by Molina the entirety of the film. And this is not a movie that I would ever go to see on purpose. So that says something. Let's keep it moving. We've got one more film to talk about that's also out now in theaters.
I demand a single grace from you. If you are not to award me love, then I will indulge in rage.
Okay, so that is from the trailer for Guillermo del Toro's Frankenstein. Jacob Elordi plays the monster. I feel like most of us know the plot of Frankenstein. So let me just start by asking you, Jackson, what did you think of the film?
I mean, we just talked about a movie that I was like, I don't necessarily love it, but it's not necessarily my bag. And I agree with everything Rihanna said about Kiss the Spider Woman and all those aspects about it being beautiful. It just wasn't necessarily my thing. Frankenstein, I just don't really think it's all good. Almost objectively, I saw this at TIFF, and before these shows, if I saw a movie a while ago, I'll go back to read my long review I usually write about these, and my review was just, it just so underwhelmed me. Aspects like, I think that Guillermo del Toro has been making this movie since his very first movie. Like every movie he makes is about who is the monster, the creepy thing in the corner, or the evil human that made it. And that's like, if you watched Shape of Water, that's what that's about. If you watched like Hellboy, Blade 2, if you watched The Devil's Backbone, a like kind of esoteric, odd movie about childhood and like ghosts and like orphanages and like monsters, etc. It's the Frankenstein story, and he's told it so many times that I think he's built up this story so much in his mind and had like all these ideas like, I'm going to reference this part where he like reads this book about the stars of young Werther. I'm going to reference this part about when like the Dr. Frankenstein says XYZ. So it's like, it's so slavishly addicted to the urtext that it does feel a little bit divorced of emotion and interest and innovation. This is just a story that I think we don't even need to tell you what the story of Frankenstein is, because we all know it so well that this movie tells that story again. So we just skipped over what the movie actually does. The experience of the movie is what we just skipped over in this question, because it's so self-evident, and this movie I feel like is a little bit self-evident, even if the set design is gorgeous, and some of the performances are from middlingly good to kind of impressive. Other than that, it's not terrible. It's just to me.
I mean, if Jackson's short of words, something has gone terribly wrong. I also think, as someone who enjoys Guillermo del Toro's films, it's not always about the story with him. It's about the experience. It's about the set. It's about the costumes. It's about that world that he creates. Hoai-Tran, what did you think of his take on Frankenstein?
I agree with a lot of what Jackson said, although I came away a little bit more positive from it. But I'm a huge fan of Guillermo del Toro's works. He's a filmmaker who really speaks to the Gothic horror and Gothic romance lover in me. But if I could use one word to describe his Frankenstein, it's indulgent. This is a movie, like Jackson has said, that del Toro has been trying to make for nearly his entire career or has been making with every one of his films. And it feels every inch like that. It's both a culmination of all his passions and all of his quirks, both good and bad. And as a result, the movie looks impossibly beautiful, and it's also incredibly labored. And the first half is like a slog because of that. It's so slavishly faithful to Mary Shelley's book. But I will say it's refreshing to see an adaptation of Frankenstein that does adhere to the source material and does want to bring about everything that it has to say about the creature in a feature film adaptation. And it does pay off in the second half when Jacob Elordi's creature takes the spotlight and he basically brings the movie to life, pun intended.
Well, let's talk about my boyfriend Jacob Elordi a little bit, because he's also been getting Oscar buzz. Hoai-Tran, what do you think about his performance?
Oh, he is the heart and soul of this movie. The physicality he lends to the role is incredible. He's lanky and gaunt and intimidating, but also so vulnerable and raw. The prosthetics that they give him as the creature are really minimal and kind of beautiful. It makes him look like a porcelain doll that was shattered and mended and put together. And it gives Elordi the chance to deliver so much emotion through his eyes. They're haunted and brimming with hurt and fear. And he's just the soul of the lumbering beast that is this movie.
I love it. Reanna, I know you haven't had a chance to watch it, but is this a movie you're interested in going to see? Have they sold it for you at all?
Oh, I don't know.
We were the best marketing team.
Some pickings here, but I think I'll watch it only because I am interested in what Jacob Elordi will bring to the role. And also, like, I'm a heavy movie enjoyer, I don't think a casual viewer would be as inclined to see it, but I'm like, sure, why not?
Sure, why not?
That's a fair thing to go into this movie with. Yeah.
Jackson, it's in select theaters now, but it is streaming on Netflix in a few weeks. Is this the type of movie you should go and see on the big screen, or can we just wait for it to come on streaming?
I mean, again, I will kind of destroy my own argument in the sense that, like, maybe this might be for you. And if this is for you, if you do love Guillermo del Toro, I will say, actually, if you liked Nostradamus, not Nostradamus, sorry, I just Nosferatu, that's a totally different person. One of them is real. If you like Nosferatu, then I do think that this is the movie for you, because that's another movie that is about, like, the beautiful world that it is built. It's about the set design. It's about the respect for an era of Hollywood and for an era of filmmaking. And it's so, like, visually stunning that if that was for you, then this movie will be for you. And seeing it in the theater is an experience. It's so gothic and larger than life that will kind of move you. If you're not huge into that, or if you're not a huge Guillermo fan, just wait for it on Netflix and you'll have a nice spooky little watch at home.
Well, there you go. I mean, is the review from Jackson. So that's all we really have to say.
Yeah.
I really appreciate all of you sticking around to chat about these films with us. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hoai-Tran Bui is an entertainment editor at Inverse based in New York. Reanna Cruz is an LA-based music journalist, audio producer, and culture critic. And Jackson Weaver is a senior writer at CBC Entertainment in Toronto and lover of musicals. After the Hunt and Kiss of the Spider Woman are in theaters now, and so is Frankenstein, but only on a limited number of screens. It'll be streaming on Netflix starting November 7th. And that's it for the podcast today. I'm Amil Niazi, sitting in for Elamin Abdelmahmoud. Thanks for listening.